Graphic design is getting messier, louder, and some people argue a little uncomfortable. And no, actually, that's not a mistake. Right now, it is very much intentional. If you've been paying attention lately, you've probably noticed this too. Graphic design right now, it feels very raw. Designers are playing with typography that almost looks wrong. You are starting to see layouts that pop up and they totally disregard the rules that we were taught to follow. Texture where there shouldn't be any. You are starting to see things that pop up that feel more like protest posters or zines, rather than a polished brand campaign. And your first reaction might be, why does this look like it's unfinished? Congratulations, you're witnessing a design rebellion, because graphic design is officially entering its punk era. Okay guys, so last week I talked about how AI didn't kill graphic design. It exposed a real problem. And some of you responded to that, because the issue never was the technology itself. It was sameness, it was over-optimization. It was design being reduced to something clean, safe, emotionally flat. And what we are seeing designers doing right now in 2026, it's messy, it's loud. There's a rule-breaking wave. And that is a response to exactly what I was talking about last week on my channel. This is what happens when the creative industry gets tired of behaving. Now, when I say punk, it doesn't always look like safety pins and band posters. Although, yes, visually that influence is obviously there. But punk isn't really an aesthetic. Stay with me here. It's a reaction. Historically, punk shows up when systems become too rigid, too polished, too controlled, too corporate. It's what happens when people feel like they're boxed in by rules that don't really serve their creativity. And that is exactly where graphic design has been sitting for a while. Let's be honest for a second. Modern design has become obsessed with scalability, modernity, consistency, optimization, performance metrics. Everything has to work everywhere for everyone, and it has to be all the time. Design systems, they are brand guidelines thicker than textbooks. Fonts that are chosen because they're safe. Shout out to Helvetica. And layouts that won't offend anyone. And yes, I believe that structure is very necessary. But somewhere along the way, expression got replaced with efficiency. Design stopped asking, does this feel like something? And we all started asking things like, will this perform? And that's the thing, it started to feel really dull. So what happens when everything looks correct? Designers start choosing chaos, intentional chaos. We start choosing design that breaks the alignment rule, distorts typography, embraces texture and noise, looks like it's made by humans. It's imperfect, it's emotional. And right now, it stands out a lot more than those perfectly polished designs. It is design that doesn't ask for permission. Very punk design. And it's not trying to be liked by everyone. And this shift, it isn't random. It's happening for a very specific reason. Number one, algorithm fatigue. Designs that are optimized for platforms feel empty. When everything is built to stop the scroll, then nothing really sticks. Your audience these days, they're smart. They could feel when something was made just to perform. Number two, visual sameness. When tools get smarter, outputs become more predictable. It's not AI bad. It's just like AI familiar. Designers right now, they're really pushing back. They're creating work that can't be easily replicated or generated. And number three, brand fear. Most brands are terrified of being disliked. And ironically enough, that fear actually makes them invisible. Punk design doesn't aim to be universally loved. It aims to be felt by those who value it the most. And this kind of reminds me of my channel, because a lot of the times people will say, Candace, what are you doing here? Like, why aren't your videos getting millions of views? And it's because the videos I make are not for everyone. It's for a niche group of people who actually see value in design, who see value in creativity. The punk design movement is very similar to this. And let's be clear about one thing. Punk design isn't bad design. It's not sloppy for the sake of being sloppy. It is very deliberate discomfort. You could see it in things like disordered or clashing typography, layouts that feel asymmetrical or unstable on purpose, visible grain scanning marks, photocopy textures, collage and cut and paste aesthetics, references to poster art, zines, street posters, the kind of design that makes a corporate brand guideline sweat. And that is the whole point. Here's where things get very interesting. Brands say it all the time, they love authenticity, in theory. But punk design doesn't really play nicely. It doesn't scale cleanly. It doesn't have A/B test predictability. It doesn't translate perfectly across every platform. It is risky. And risk is the one thing that most brands are actually allergic to. Because punk design asks a very dangerous question in their eyes. So what if everyone doesn't like this design? Here's the fun part. Brands that do lean into that kind of energy, they end up standing out immediately. And this is because in a sea of neutral beige design that's accepted by everyone, anything with personality, it feels very electric. Punk design isn't quiet, but it also doesn't ask for your attention. Instead, it takes it. And I want to be really clear about something. This isn't about copying a look. This isn't a call for any of you to suddenly start making grungy work. Punk design is not a template, it's a mindset. It is about questioning. It's about asking yourself, why am I making this choice? Is it safe or is it honest? Am I designing for approval or am I designing for impact? You could apply this type of mindset to any style. If you are a designer and you're watching this, especially if you're early in your career, this moment really matters for you because the design industry is quietly shifting its values. They are growing respect for a strong point of view, emotional clarity, a visible human touch, and it is starting to become less about lifeless trends, empty polish, and design that only exists to look professional. This is an opportunity not to be reckless, but to be very brave. And for brands, this is very uncomfortable, but it is also very necessary because the audience is more visually literate than ever. They could tell when something is designed by a committee. They could tell when someone is playing it safe. And they could tell when something has no soul. The punk rebellion, it isn't about a rebellion for rebellious sake. It's about reconnecting with design meaning. And this brings us back full circle. AI didn't kill graphic design. It exposed how much of design has become predictable. And punk design is the response. It's designers saying we don't want it to be perfect. We want it to be real. This doesn't mean that every project has to be loud and chaotic, but it does mean that the era of invisible design is cracking. And what comes next, it won't be neat. It won't always be comfortable. But what it will be is very human. Design, it doesn't need to be louder, it just needs to be braver. But okay guys, that's all I have for you right now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a like and subscribe because I make videos just like this every single week. But that is all I have for you right now. See you next time. Bye!